Happy New Year. It's Carrie with Asking for a Friend podcast, and we're getting ready to film our first one of 2025. So excited. It's going to focus on weight and wellness. We're going to be talking to Dr. Weston, Adrienne, our nurse practitioner, and Dr. Katie, who is a physical therapist. She's going to talk a lot about movement. She's amazing. And we're going to dive into weight loss medications, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We're going to talk about side effects. We're going to talk about protein. How much should you have? We're going to dive into hormones and how those relate to weight loss. What kind of movement should you be doing? Focusing a lot on women who are in their 40s and 50s who really struggle to lose weight and aren't sure what they should and shouldn't be doing, because it isn't the same things you should be doing when you're in your 20s or even your 30s. So if you're sick of feeling like you can't get anywhere, you're just not gaining any momentum, you're not losing weight, you don't have energy, this is the podcast to listen to, 1,000,000%. And we also want you to, stick with those resolutions. Don't be part of the 97% that don't stick with them. So we're going to give you the tools to hopefully do that. And I think it'll be really fun. So I hope that you'll join us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Asking for a Friend, first episode of 2025. Today, we're talking all things weight and wellness. And I have an amazing guest panel with me. I have Adrienne, who's our nurse practitioner. She is totally running our weight and wellness program at our office, which is brand new and exciting. And I can't wait for you guys to hear all about it. She's amazing. We have Katie here, Dr. Katie. She's a physical therapist and is doing great things by doing at-home physical therapy and all kinds of cool things. And you can follow her on Instagram as well. And then I have Dr. Weston. She's our normal person, so kind of boring, I know. But she's our functional provider at Donaldson and manages all of that. So we're going to have a great talk about, it's perfect timing with weight and wellness because we all have resolutions. it's January. And who has them? Me, who never keeps them. Me. I actually saw a really cool, not a cool statistic, it's actually really sad, about the people that make resolutions, and 80% of them don't last past 3 months and only 3% make it a year. I probably fall very much in that category. Not this year though, but it was really cool. But what was really interesting, and I knew it was the case, but I didn't know it was so substantial. The top 3 things that people do, they want to exercise more, they want to eat healthier, and they want to lose weight. Well, lose weight was number 1. Eat healthier was number 2. And then exercise more was number 3. And it wasn't even close, the rest of the options. So this is very important, this conversation. And I think a little resonate with a lot of people. Absolutely. So I love to start with a game of this and that. Well, first of all, before I do that, introduce yourself, Katie. Because you're kind of we work together, Adrienne and Dr. Weston and I. But tell us about yourself and kind of a little bit about your background.
So I recently moved to Ohio. I was living in Southern California for the last 13 years. Originally grew up in New Jersey. When I got here to Ohio this summer, I went to this program called RTRX, and Dr. Weston was there. And so I saw her and I just thought I need to meet this functional medicine doctor. It's definitely part of what I love to do is help people naturally feel better in their body. So but for me in general, I'm super athletic. I love being outdoors. I played tennis in college, and I think when I was playing tennis in college and studying in the health sciences, it was just all really relatable and easy for me to learn because I was lifting weights, being active and eating well, and it all kind of compounded. And so I kind of made that my life passion is to help people. And I love meeting people too. I'm sure we could all relate. I just love people's stories. I think people are so interesting and fascinating. And so it kind of all fits.
Every time I look on social media, you're somewhere else, doing something else, meeting someone else, because you were doing yoga in coffee shops, and because you're also a yoga instructor. Right?
Yes, I'm a yoga instructor too. Yeah. So I think part of living in Southern California, the yoga bug kind of takes over you, and there's all these spiritual places to visit there. And so I became a yoga instructor because I enjoyed yoga and I enjoy spirituality and relaxation, and I was living a busy life, and I thought it's just a perfect blend. For as much as a lot of us are weekend warriors or really tough on our body, yoga is just such a nice way to relax and both like mind, body, spirit, and I thought it would be really therapeutic to incorporate it in my physical therapy practice. So my practice is sports medicine, but also has a holistic like yoga side where I can blend the two and add some mindfulness. Sometimes I do meditation with my patients because they're so anxious. They need to like calm down and be really present for our sessions together, which I love.
I love that. Well, you guys have the sports medicine connection too, which is really cool. Yeah, I love that. Well, I love to start with kind of, well, I shouldn't say I love to. I've done it one other time. So I'm kind of new to the game here, guys. But I really did enjoy doing it. And I think it's a great kind of segue into what we want to talk about and to like get to know you guys. And we can kind of talk as we go. So you can pick it if you want to have like, you have some comments about why you're choosing the thing you're choosing or you have some thoughts on it, definitely say it. And we can, circle back if you want. Have you played this or that before?
Yeah, I love this game. Yeah.
I have a little cheat sheet because I have kind of a list. So, resistance training or HIIT?
I'm a HIIT girl. I'm a HIIT girl because when I work out, I want to get in there and kind of go hard and push myself and get the most out of the time that I'm putting in. I know enough to know that that's not always the answer, but personal preference, I'm a HIIT person.
Yeah, big Orange Theory girl.
Yeah.
What about you?
I got really into weight training and lifting last year. So I really love lifting heavy weights. I feel so empowered after doing that.
Love that.
Yeah, and I used to think I'd have to like sweat to feel like I got to work out, but now the coolest thing is you don't even need to sweat that much because I don't really enjoy sweating and you can feel really strong.
Okay. What about you?
I would say if you would have asked me like 2 years ago, I would have said HIIT. I love a good HIIT workout, but mostly resistance training now. I still do love to sweat, so I do my resistance training in like 95 degree
Oh, gosh.
in the gym.
Listen, I have trauma.
Yeah.
I'm having a trauma response.
The funniest
right now.
time was we went to the resistance training in the 100 and some degree heat, Adrian and I both, for the first
On
time.
my birthday.
Oh gosh, I forgot
With
about that
her?
part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
On my
And
birthday.
the funniest part is everyone is drowning in sweat. They're
for my
sliding
party.
all over the place. And at the end, I had 2 towels. I brought 2 towels, and they were behind me, so I didn't understand what they were going through back there. But they had no towels. They're sliding everywhere.
no.
And at the
Yeah,
end, I go,
that's-
"Oh, Adrian, here, I have a towel for you." And she's like,
It was positioned to me as if we were going to a hot yoga,
Yeah.
which I have done. Okay, and I thought, great, right?
Yeah.
But then I get
Relaxing.
there
It'll
and
be
people are in
wonderful.
like tennis shoes and like mountain climbing boots and with beach towels.
That's an
Yes.
exaggeration.
It's
Yes.
not.
Beach towels
really.
is not an
And
exaggeration.
I thought, okay, so I had, my yoga mat and okay, whatever, I can do this.
Yeah.
That is not the case.
Yeah.
It was a lift yoga.
Yes.
At
They
5
were
in the morning.
very,
Yeah.
it looked like you guys had jumped in a swimming pool and stood there and the water dripped off of you onto the floor.
It was-
It was bad.
It was amazing.
I
And I would have done the same, but I
Sounds up
could
your
tell.
alley.
I left angry,
Yeah.
very upset.
I'm usually guilty of
But
that. Like telling a
she
friend, this is going to be the best thing ever.
was
and then they're like,
amazing and felt healthy.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was good, but it was
Rhabdo, I felt. but yeah, so I checked that off my list.
Yeah,
I said,
done.
There you go.
Did it. Yeah.
Yeah.
along the lines. So yoga or Pilates? We'll start this way.
I hate yoga. I swear it makes my heart rate go up every time I do it because I hate it so much. But I do it every week. I do it Thursday mornings. I'll do yoga with lift. So I'm going to go with Pilates.
Okay,
Yoga, obviously.
not surprising.
So I would say, right now, I would say yoga, but I think my idea of yoga is a little bit different. It's less about the relaxation and more about like the strength training part of it, because I will die in a Pilates machine. So I can't figure that out. I'm a hazard.
Yeah,
We did that
Pilates is
together
tough.
too.
Yep, and that was
I've never
again.
done a reformer.
It's
I need to do it.
the
I need
shake
to
is
try it.
real. When you're shaking
oh, yeah.
on it,
I
yeah,
wanna
You have to very quickly change positions, and
Yeah.
you're in this like
contraction.
sideways guillotine
Yeah.
essentially.
And you're
Essentially,
lifting
yeah.
like your leg this much and it's shaking like crazy and you're like, how does this
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a workout for sure, but
it's
part of it is a mental exercise and making sure you don't get your legs snapped off in the rubber bands. So.
Yeah, there's a
Sounds
lot of
very
brain. Yeah.
That's very true. I would say Pilates. I love the way I feel after doing yoga, but I don't like I don't like the repetition. I like yoga if it's not repetitive, like the constant like sequence of things. I like to do different poses and move on. But yeah, so I would say Pilates. Cold plunge or sauna. we've had this before, but it's gotten a little interesting lately, I feel like.
I would say sauna, but I have multiple reasons for it, but I would say sauna.
That's tough. I like both. I'm going to say cold.
Okay.
I loathe to be cold, but I will say that I feel better after a cold plunge than I do sauna.
Interesting. Okay. I'm definitely sauna. So track calories or track steps?
I'm going to say steps because I think you can just live and die in that calorie counting thing all day. And there are so many other benefits to the steps. And I like to be efficient. So I could be getting my steps while getting things done.
Love that.
Steps. I love to go new places and see different things. And the thought of counting calories, I'll get too into my head.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I will also say steps. I hate calorie counting. I think you can have Fruit Loops and count your calories. It doesn't make you any healthier if you're eating X amount of calories.
Great point. Yeah. I would be steps too. And I will say you're efficient because you just bought a walking pad for your office, as did Dr. Weston. I know I'm not Lewis Center that much, so I don't see you as much, but yeah, you did as well. I bought one too, but I don't know if I'm allowed to use it in my office, so I got to ask permission. I have too many patients in there. It could be a hazard.
I think it's...
Can I ask how you like it?
I like it, but if I'm doing too much reading and writing, I will get nauseous because I can't read in a car. I can't, so I'll get nauseous with it. But during meetings and stuff, I'll do it. And usually Colleen is a dietitian on our team, and she's usually walking too. So we're just like, I feel like we're going on a walk together.
I love it. I can type with it. Writing's difficult.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if I'm reading like a book, that's hard.
Yeah.
But if I'm just like scrolling through and like answering emails or whatnot, that's fine.
Interesting. I haven't tried it yet. Good night's sleep or meditation? We'll start with you, Katie, this time.
That's a tough one. Meditation. Okay. Meditation is difficult, and I like it in the middle of my day. That's when I first got started on meditation. I had these 10-hour work days with patients, boom, 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 back to back, which we all know. And then during lunch, instead of doing my documentation and chit-chatting with everyone, I went outside and meditated, and it totally changed my day. It made the second half of the day so much nicer.
Is there a certain amount of time that is the best to do that? Is it 5 minutes or 10 minutes?
5 or 10. I was doing 10. Okay. I was working my way up to 10. So this was in San Diego. I'd go outside, eat my lunch, lay down, put on a 10-minute timer on my iPhone, and just get into it.
I love it.
It's probably harder to do that in Ohio.
I know.
It feels like 5 outside.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Tougher.
Is there anything you recommend for people who want to get into meditation? Is there a book or an app or anything that you recommend?
Yeah, the apps are great.
About it?
Yeah,
Calm. Is there one you like? Calm
or Headspace? I really like.
Very cool.
Yeah,
something I think everybody needs. So
yeah, Headspace you can start with 1 minute.
That's what I've done.
Yes.
Yeah. What's your answer to that, Dr. Weston?
I would say good night's sleep.
Good night's sleep.
Yeah, I'm in this stage of life where sometimes you don't sleep very well, so a good night's sleep, you're like, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my gosh, it's 6 a.m. and it's not 2 a.m. So, plus I still have kids coming in.
Yeah.
So I'll take a good night's sleep anytime.
Do you have recommendations that can help people, especially women of a certain age, get a good night's sleep?
There's so many. That could be a whole
podcast.
Yeah.
Okay.
On sleep. We should actually do one on sleep because you can talk about sleep hygiene. You can talk about hormones. You can talk about cortisol.
Yeah.
You can talk about sugar regulation. Yeah. So many. You can talk about boundaries with your children.
What do you think is one huge thing that people make the mistake doing that prevents them from getting a good night's sleep?
Alcohol.
Alcohol?
I would say alcohol and eating too late.
Very good.
Yeah.
I'm
guilty of both.
Yes.
Right?
Guilty of both.
Everybody. Yeah.
What about you?
Strike that from the record. I would say, for me, definitely a good night's sleep. Definitely. And I think it's just because that is an elusive beast for me right now. And I also just don't think I'm very good at meditation. I know I'm not. I mean, the idea of sitting still for 1 minute and having my brain also sit still seems daunting. So perhaps if I were better at it, that would be
maybe you would sleep better if you could meditate.
I'm practicing sleep right now.
So when
I get there,
to sleep,
then I'll do that.
They say for people who don't like meditating, it's because we don't like being alone in our thoughts.
There's a lot of people up there. It's a crowd.
It's very true.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say since moving from California to Ohio, I've noticed, and New Jersey was the same way. like so much. I mean, not that it's not in California, but people I think are more used to talking about meditation. So I'm bringing it here, guys.
All right, I love it.
We'll make it happen.
I would say for me, good night's sleep without question, because that's doesn't happen very often. Okay, money on a gym membership or money on a meal prep service? Start with you, Rachel.
Gym membership all day long.
Gym membership.
Gym.
Oh no! If I have a patient who wants to have weight loss, it is 100% meal prep. 100%.
So I guess it depends on your goals.
Yeah.
So
It
weight
depends on your
loss
goals. If your
be-
goal is weight loss, I will tell you to
Invest in meal
not
prep.
go to the 100%.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I would say gym because I love to work out, but I want to lose weight, so I should say meal prep.
So I will say if you want to keep weight off,
Gym.
gym.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, last one. Calorie counting or macros? Dr. Weston.
Macro. I hate calories. Hate it. Rarely will I have someone count calories. I mean, I used to do that when I treated eating disorder patients. We would have to count calories, and I can get an idea of the calories you're eating if you tell me what you're normally eating in a day. But yeah, you can be very unhealthy eating certain calories.
Yeah. Macros. I actually really enjoy learning about like what foods do for me and like and tasting different foods and then like seeing how my body reacts. I don't know. I just find that to be kind of fun. So I'd rather do that than count.
Have you done a CGM monitor to monitor that, or is it just you
No,
go based
I
on how you
want
feel?
to. I
Oh my
know.
gosh.
I need to.
I just put my new one on this morning.
Yeah. But I like knowing, and like I like
Just
whole
go based on
foods.
how
I
you
like
feel.
feeling like, oh, I have an apple and I have carrots and I don't know, it's like silly, but like I like just having good food.
I love that. I'm not good at it.
I think at this stage, or if I were starting out with a new weight loss patient, or even for myself at this stage, it's definitely macros. I think that's a little easier to digest. Did you see what I did there?
Oh, that was good.
I think that's a little
know.
easier to do, and it's easier to focus on certain portions of it rather than this day-long math problem that you're essentially doing, and then it's just daunting to do it day after day after day. I think there's a benefit to both, but for the purpose of the question, I'll say macros.
Nice. Is there any resource you guys like best? Because I know people like will track it and do anything. Do you guys like any apps or anything for that specifically that you've used, or any way of tracking that's easier for people who are new to it?
I do like some of the apps. I think that they're good. I like I think it's called Chronometer and MyFitnessPal, and there's one called Lose It. And the reason I like those is because there's so much already preloaded into them. They're very well known. So it takes the barrier out of like doing all of the research yourself. Like, oh, how many servings did I actually have? And some of you can just take a picture and it tells you like, this is what you ate. So it makes it easier for people to track when they're starting out.
Nice. All right. So thanks for participating. But next I want to talk about the hottest topic of 2024. Without question, are weight loss medications. GLP-1s, for people that don't know what that is. And I was just dying at the Golden Globes that just happened. And they had posts that said, winner of the Ozempic award. And it had like all the people that they thought were on Ozempic. I mean, it's just everywhere though. But it's like so just normalized, and it's celebrated. I mean, it's, it really is. It wasn't a negative thing.
Okay,
it was,
good.
no, it was just they all looked really good and they all lost weight and hopefully they were healthy about it. But it's just everywhere, let's face it. And so I know myself, along with everyone else that's going to be listening, wants to know, like, let's talk about it. And I don't know who wants to start, but like, what do they do? Let's just start with that. How do they work? You can start, Dr. Weston. You want?
So GLP-1 is a peptide that's made in your gut. And so it helps with insulin sensitivity. It helps with increasing insulin from your pancreas. And it helps to decrease new sugar being made in your liver. So GLP-1 agonists work. They are GLP-1. So you make it naturally anyway. So it's something we naturally have in our body. So it's not like we're, using this foreign substance. They help to decrease satiety. Increase satiety so you get full quicker. They do that several ways. So first of all, they slow down the gut. So therefore you have a lot of side effects. So things like nausea, constipation, that can happen with them. The other thing that's been super interesting is they work somewhere in our brain. So they work in the reward center of our brain. So people don't have the food noise that they once did. And food noise is a real thing. So I have some patients who, for instance, will not want to go out with their friends. I had one who was like very upset in my office. She didn't want to go to like a potluck that she was having with a social group through church because she knew that there would be a lot of food noise. And that's like, not everyone knows that feeling, but if you do, it is life-changing. So if you can get rid of that food noise, these are people who didn't know they could live without it. And so for them to not have that is life-altering. And not just about the weight, it's about the psychological component of it. It's about not thinking about food. Because these are people who, like, all day long will think, what am I going to eat for breakfast? What am I going to eat for lunch? What am I going to have for dinner? What happens if I'm not home for a meal? If something changes in their day, it gives them a lot of anxiety. I mean, those are things that people don't talk about. And I don't know if people don't talk about it because it's, like, shamed a little bit. Because I think that these people have probably spent their entire life thinking, I don't have the willpower. I'm not strong enough. And that's what we make it about, but it's not. I mean, it's different. It's a hormonal imbalance in their brain. And now we're finding even decreases with like alcohol consumption and just, so it doesn't have to be food noise. It can be multiple different types of noise and just addiction behavior. So it works in the brain in a way that we're not exactly sure how. I'm sure we will find out, but that to me is the biggest miracle, dare I say, of GLP-1s. I don't know. I mean, you've seen it too.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. And this is the thing, and we'll cover this too. It does work by slowing down the gut. It does work by making you feel full longer. It does work on the reward center. They're using it for drinking and gambling and whatnot. But if you're somebody who has food noise, you're constantly thinking about your next meal and not in a positive way. You're worried about it. And when you take that worry away, people do lose weight because they're almost overeating out of fear that it's not going to happen, or they have to do this, or then they go on a diet, and we'll see this at the beginning of each year, right, where they can't go to a friend's house because I planned this diet and now I have to go over there and I can't eat. I can't. And for every other addiction, what's the answer? You quit. You can't quit food.
Yeah.
You can't quit it. So what it does is it takes the drama in your mind away from it so that it just becomes what it's supposed to be for you, which is nutrition and fuel.
Interesting. There's so many different kinds. Like, explain that. Like, what is one better than the other? Do they work differently? What has been your experience with them? Do you prefer one over another? Like, kind of explain that, because you hear Ozempic and you hear Semaglutide and you hear Tirzepatide and all of those. And I think there's a new one even on the horizon. I'm sure there's going to be a million new ones now, right? But
there are.
like, what are they? Like,
So Semaglutide, so there have even been ones prior to Semaglutide, but Semaglutide is the one that kind of paved the way. And so that works on one receptor, GLP-1. And then we have Tirzepatide is the next one that works on two receptors. So GLP-1, it works on GIP. Then we have I don't even know how to say it, retaglutide? Retaglutide. It's retaglutide.
It was like,
That one is through. So it's GIP, it's GLP-1, and it's glucagon. And so it's, and there are like 8 more in the wings. And what's interesting is there are even some that are being touted not for weight loss, because there are people who don't need to lose weight but do want to get rid of food noise or do want to get rid of addiction. Or sometimes people are even talking about chronic pain issues and things like that. So I think you will hear a lot more about GLP-1s. So as far as which one's better, I think as you go, you're going to have a little bit more weight loss with each. But it's really not that much. Like if you look at Tirzepatide for the newest one, the retaglutide, it's like a 1% difference. I think one was like 24.5% weight loss and the other one's like 25.5% weight loss. So we're pretty close here. And then as you go, you often can have less side effects as well. Now, I don't always find that to be true, but we try. Usually we do Semaglutide first because it's the cheapest. So it's most readily available.
Yeah.
And insurances will cover that one quicker than others.
Why do you think, I mean, because I don't know anything about medicine. So why all of a sudden is it this phenomena? Like all of a sudden, like GLP-1s are everywhere. They're making a million of them. Everyone's taking it. There's all of this just buzz about it. Why all of a sudden? Like why this year?
I think honestly, whenever there's a weight loss drug that comes out, there's a bunch of buzz around it. I mean, even so, Fen was probably like the first major one that people talked about. So Fen, there was a big buzz around it. Everybody was on it. And then they found out it caused like primary pulmonary hypertension. That was irreversible. So it's taken off the market. But so I think there's always a buzz around anything with weight loss. Like even ephedrine and, you know, Garcinia or whatever came out, like even supplements that come out will have that buzz around it. But this was made to be a diabetes medication. It helps with metabolic health. It helps to decrease your sugar. And now we're finding that it also helps with cardioprotection. So it's helpful for heart health. And so those are huge, like even take away the weight loss. If you just have someone of normal weight that has diabetes or has, you know, cardiac history or risk, this can decrease it. That's huge. Those are big movers as far as longevity. So, and then with really minimal side effects.
And it became more accessible,
For
right?
sure.
It became more accessible. Was a diabetic medication, has now the indication for weight loss as well. So now it is accessible. I mean, sure, you can prescribe it, you know, if to somebody who is not diabetic or is pre-diabetic without that weight loss indication. But this has been prescribed for a long time. I mean, we've given this to our diabetic patients for a long time. The fact now that they've branded it differently with a weight loss indication, it makes it accessible to everybody now. So I think that's why you're hearing about it more.
I have two questions to just piggyback off that. You mentioned Fen, and then like, and then they found out it caused this, and then they took it off the market. Is that a concern for the GLP-1s? Or, I mean, or is there, like, what are the side effects? Or could it be harmful in any way? Or should we worry about that? Or should patients worry about that?
So we don't use it if you've had a history of medullary thyroid cancer or neuroendocrine cancer. That's a no. Pancreatitis is a risk factor. But I mean, I have a patient on it who has had pancreatitis in the past. She knows the risk. She knows what it feels like, so she's on it. Gallbladder issues. But that's true with any kind of weight loss. You could do keto and have gallstones. So, you know, it's been, I think it came out as far as like studies in 2012. We started using it for diabetics in like 2017. So long term, that's what we know. But so far, what the studies are showing is it's heart protective. I mean, we know anything that decreases sugar is going to be protective vascularly. So far, it looks pretty good. I mean, there are new things that are coming out. So like suicidality wasn't first mentioned when it first came out. Now it's mentioned because there's been case reports. Because so many people are on it, you're going to find more and more.
Anything that happens, they have to blame it on that. Yeah.
So suicidality is one. I know there's been a couple case reports of like kidney failure. Those are mostly diabetics who've had underlying kidney issues. What else? What other? Oh, small bowel obstruction. Well, and some of it's a little bit common sense. Like if you're not going to the bathroom, if you're not pooping for 5 days, like you want to maybe not do your next dose or talk to your doctor about decreasing your dose or
I've
do something
personally
about it.
seen cases of pancreatitis and small bowel obstruction with these medications prescribed to diabetics, and it was still at that point even very much like I hate to say common sense, but you need to be in communication with your healthcare provider as well. If you're not going to the bathroom or if you have sharp stabbing pain that's new, say something.
And that's why you should have a doctor.
You should have a doctor.
Which was my second point.
To about it.
Was just like, so that when I said like it's just the huge buzz and everybody's talking about it, I think that's kind of, for me, I have no medical background at this table, that is a big red flag for me, because at the end of the day, it's a medication that you need a prescription for. But yet I feel like at every corner or online, you can just get it sent to you, and that feels really ugly and weird and dirty, and it gives it, to me, it gives it kind of this ick feeling. And so I guess, talking about our weight wellness program, the reason I love it, because if we did that, I wouldn't love it and be able to support it, in all honesty. But I do love it because we do hold hands with patients, and we, monitor it, and we do all the things that you need to do. I think that's amazing. So I love that we're starting it. We've already been seeing some patients, but hardcore kicking it off this month. And you've been helping people for years. It's just more of a weight focused.
It's definitely much more weight focused. I think the really important part about it is we have people that do it that are not going to use medication. We're focusing on weight and their overall wellness, but they don't have to use these medications. And if they are, it's a tool. It's not the end all be all. It's not meant, for you to be on it for the rest of your life. If you are, okay, we'll support that if it's appropriate, but it's meant to be a tool for a habit change that is sustainable, that lets you kind of learn your body again and learn your own cues. So yeah, we put people on it, and it's great, but it's not the only thing for them. They're still going to have to either count a calorie or a macro or steps or whatnot. It is one small piece of the puzzle. But yes, to your point, we're not the Wild West. And I said this in our talk the other night. You can get it at a drive-through now, basically. I mean, you can really get it anywhere. But
and things
why would
can
you?
go wrong.
Things can go wrong.
And I think that everyone is just making it so common. It's kind of like before I started working here, I thought, oh, everyone can do Botox and filler. That's just whatever, go wherever. But then when you start working here, you realize so much can go wrong, and you better have a good injector. And it's like with GLP-1s, things can go wrong, especially if you are, have comorbidities or things going on that need to be monitored, and you're not a candidate essentially for it. If people don't know what they're doing, like it's pretty crazy. Like you told me a story of somebody who wasn't monitoring it, and they literally like had a huge complication, and it was avoidable had they just run a certain blood test.
Well, you should have blood tests.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's you should, if you're going somewhere and they're not even testing any blood work or looking at any blood work or weighing you or talking to you about diet or talking to you about weightlifting or talking to you about anything.
Yeah.
If you just go there once a week, get your shot and leave.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be changing things, or else you're going to gain it all back. And when you do gain it back, you're going to gain a whole heck of a lot more fat than muscle.
Yeah.
Like when we lose weight, we lose fat and muscle. When we gain it back, it's all fat.
Yeah.
So that's going to change your underlying metabolism. It's going to change your body composition. I mean, I tell patients, listen, I am protecting your future self from being mad at your present self by making poor decisions. Like you need to eat your protein, lift your weights, because you're going to be gooier than you were when you started.
Yeah.
So it hurts my heart when I hear that people are getting it that
Well,
way.
I mean, I think we have our own why for prescribing it for any medication. Anytime we prescribe something, we are weighing pros and cons for the patient, and the same as they're choosing to take it. So, you have your why you want to lose weight. I want to look better. I want to feel better. I want you to prevent, disease down the road. I want you to look better and feel better. You can lose weight unchecked. I can give you that medication and send you out the door, and you can lose weight. I don't have to check your labs, but I'm doing you a disservice. For us to look at everything ahead of time, my why, I want to see your lipid panel look better. I want to see your cholesterol look better. I want to see your A1C look better. I mean, you can lose the weight with metastatic cancer too. Yeah. You can choose, you can choose your weight loss.
Yeah.
And nobody has to check it, but my job is to make sure that we are both looking out for you while you're doing this.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the reason I'm drawn to be with you ladies tonight and have this conversation is because in my area of medicine, I've worked with patients that are overweight, and it's like to get them, all they want is for me to come and massage and do some like stretching with them. They don't want to move because they're carrying that extra weight, because they've had this weight their whole life. This is what their parents look like. And like, maybe they're over consuming. There's a whole lot of habit things going on, or maybe it's, genetics, but I think that, like you said, it's a tool. It's something that's going to help them be more cognizant about their body, and then get to this place where they can feel like they can go for walks, like mile walks. And now they start identifying with maybe being a person who moves, when they identified for so long as being like, exercise is just not my thing. And that's not true. Exercise, like with yoga, is just like reaching up over, like breathing and moving, and that can be exercise. And you know, like it can be a walk. It could be, for me, it's like connecting with the people you love, your friends, your family. If like you're at Easter dinner or whatever dinner, and everyone wants to go walking after, and you're literally sitting on the couch thinking probably troubling thoughts about yourself, because like that's not going to feel good, you know, and then you're not connecting with like your family and your friends. And I don't know, for me, that's like the emotional piece, that I want people to feel freed to live the life that they want to live, and do the activities they want to do, and connect with their family and friends, and travel to Europe, and travel to, you know, and I feel like you are all saying, this is a tool to get them there when used safely and
It's also
responsibly.
shown that if you're losing weight, you're more likely to exercise.
Yeah, for sure.
Like,
there you go.
so for a lot of people, it's that motivation to get the habits going, and then to learn like what habits, how to start habits, how to continue with them, it's hard to be, people are like, I don't have the motivation. I'm like, well, you don't get the motivation unless you start doing it. Because you don't know you feel better until you start. So if we can just give them that little push to help them, and then they start, it's much easier to continue. I mean, let's be honest. Who wants to move if you're not seeing?
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we know obesity is directly related to longevity. That's just 100%. Period at the end of the day. And, you know, really, if you have high blood pressure, we're going to give you blood pressure medication. We have to do that to help you. If you're overweight, we have an option to help you not be overweight. It's kind of, at this point, almost a responsibility if you're able to help somebody. And again, it's a tool, as all of it's a tool. Very much for our program, it is one pillar of it. Movement, very much. Mindfulness, very much a part. Sleep, very much a part. There's so many facets to it that you're going to improve on. But it really is just one piece of it.
And I think maybe when you sign up, like your program runs for a certain amount of time. So I would see when a patient comes and signs up and gets access to all these different ways of building healthy habits, then it becomes like, okay, for the next 6 months, like this is me taking care of myself, pouring into me, and really getting all this information. And so that 10 years from now, wow, like that was going to be really valuable, you know, which is
and you have a whole team there to support you too, and a ton of resources, which is good, so you don't feel so alone.
Yeah,
it's
huge.
What do you think, as like Dr. Weston, obviously you eventually will probably get off of them. I assume they're not a lifelong medication. What does that look like typically for people?
And I will say the people that it might be lifelong are the food noise people.
Okay.
Because they don't.
So it's safe to be lifelong.
Well, it's been around since, I mean, 2017 is when I think
we know what we know.
Okay. We know what we know.
Yeah, okay.
Like we're making, a lot of times it's risk benefit.
Okay.
With any medication, it's risk benefit. Like at that time, we make the best decision we can. So it should be reevaluated every year with whatever new knowledge we have.
Gotcha.
So, but for those people, they really, I mean, they will tear up. They don't want to come off of it because they're a new person.
Yeah.
It's totally different for them.
That's so interesting.
But really, even for those people, once we kind of hit a goal weight, and honestly, like goal weight is where is your weight where your visceral fat is healthy, your labs look good, and you feel good. I don't care that much about what the number on the scale is.
Yeah.
And so once you hit that, we're going to wean you down. And we wean down until, if it's someone with food noise, we're going to wean down until they don't, until they start getting that food noise back, and we're going to slow down. We really try to rein in diet at this time. We really rein in exercise. We go over, what are the things that have been shown to keep weight off? So there's a national weight loss registry. So people who have kept off, I believe it's 65 pounds over 5 years, they've done huge surveys. And so there are certain tenets that we go over with patients as far as what has been shown to help keep weight off. And so one of those things is exercise, without a doubt. So we talk about all those things. And then sometimes we might use supplements. There's certain probiotics that can increase GLP-1 naturally. There are certain supplements that can increase it naturally. They're never as strong or potent as the GLP-1s, but it can be helpful.
If you were diabetic and on this medication, we keep you on it forever because you need it.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to come off of it because you're on food noise, even though you still need it, even though it still leads to a decrease in your health if we take you off of it, just like
And
if you were
mental health,
diabetic.
too. Not even
Absolutely.
like physical, like it's a huge issue for a lot of people.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Like, what percentage of patients do you see that are like food noise patients? Is it pretty high?
What percent of what we see?
Yeah.
How many people know they have food noise versus?
How do you assess for that?
So there are certain studies that you can do that you can assess for food noise.
Interview?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's validated, I think, as much as it can be. But it's like, gosh, I'm gonna forget a lot of the questions. But like if something changes in your schedule, if you can't eat when you planned on eating, those kinds of things.
Okay.
And it does create a lot of mental stress.
Interesting.
It is, and if you were thinking about food all the time, and I don't think people with food noise realize how much they eat. So it's really hard to do a diet history with someone because they don't realize. And then you have some people, even on social media, come on and they're like, calories ain't you're just eating too much, and like they don't realize it. And so you can write everything down, they still don't, like, they just don't realize it. And until I really noticed it and saw it and started asking about it, I didn't realize the impact that it had for people. So it's huge. I think that's the biggest thing. Yeah. So anyway, to answer your question, as far as percent of people, gosh, I would say, I'm gonna go 50 to 75%.
Yeah, I was gonna say at least half.
Yeah.
At least half.
Wow, that's crazy.
Because those are people that have weight.
Yeah.
They do. They have weight. They've probably always struggled with it. They've yo-yoed. They've had periods of success and periods of not successful. Periods might look great on the scale, but mentally do not.
You know, I wonder, like, people can equate it, females can equate it to those, like, couple of days prior to your cycle where you're like, I just want to eat everything. Like, it's, and you just, like, want, and so that, if you had to live with that every day, all day long, you would automatically.
I would eat chocolate then every day, all day
like
long.
you just would. I mean, it's just hard.
As a security blanket. You know, you comfort eat.
sure.
You board eat.
Yeah.
You know, you're thinking about like, oh gosh, I ate a small breakfast, so I can have a big lunch. Like you're constantly
like
weighing.
Your whole day revolves around
And measuring, and you don't realize it because it's part of it, and other people don't seem to be struggling.
Yeah.
It's being out to lunch with a friend, and they go, oh gosh, I'm full, I can't eat this. And you're like, I'm going to finish this whole thing, whether I'm hungry or not.
Yeah.
You know, it's that, and to be able to give that back to people where they're like, me too, and they just don't think about it.
Although I do want to talk about, so you said, I didn't eat a big breakfast, so I can eat a big lunch. Because I do think that women, we are so bad. We save our calories. Sorry if I'm pivoting, but we tend to like save our calories and then we just eat a big dinner.
It should be the opposite.
Or after dinner or whatever.
That's the one thing that could be a problem for tracking with an app, because it does show you throughout the day, and then you feel like,
I have this many
all
left.
of this. And you don't even have to
it.
do it.
into like an adult video game where it's like,
I've
got these coins, like I get to power up now.
I didn't think about that, but you're so right on that because I've done it.
If you're truly
like, I have all
somebody
these
who
things
is
I can eat.
really ingrained in this like food forward thinking, much like anything else, like gambling or drinking or whatnot, that can be a problem for you very much.
It would be better if the app did this many for breakfast and then you lose them.
Yeah,
And then
that
you
would
lose
be
them.
cool.
You have to use this many for lunch and then you lose
Well, they
them.
say, eat breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper. And
Yeah.
we all do the opposite in our country, I think.
Yeah,
So.
for sure.
What do you think is like the best measure of health? Is it body fat percentage? Is it your weight on the scale? Is it inches? Like, what should be the focus if somebody's like losing weight? And it should be about health. I mean, appearance is great, but at the end of the day, we all want to live a long, healthy life where we can move around and feel good. So if you're looking at that aspect, like what is the end all be all, like the one number you want to see better?
I would say visceral fat if I had to pick one.
Is there a way to measure that?
There is. You can do different scans. So you can do a certain in-body scan. Will give you your visceral fat. So visceral fat is the fat around your organs, and that is the biggest indicator of metabolic health, cardiovascular health, compared to like the fat you can squeeze, which is sub-Q fat.
The InBody. And by the way, being a surgery, really quick little disclaimer, as a surgery person, if you can't pinch it, you can't lipo it. So anyone is thinking about liposuction, if you can't pinch it, we can't get rid of it. So just a little disclaimer,
this,
because
like fat up here is visceral fat.
Yeah.
Like if you can't,
If it's hard,
it's visceral.
that's behind the muscle.
Yeah.
And so InBody, what is that about? Are you familiar with InBody?
Yeah, the other night.
Did
I
you
was
do
introduced to it. Yes.
Yeah. What did you like? What was it like?
It was easy.
Yeah.
My numbers are great, so I felt really
Well,
good.
good.
Yeah, numbers are good.
I'm sure. Look at you.
Our body doesn't do visceral, so.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
But
okay.
it's a great tool. It's
a great
It's
tool.
a great tool.
Yeah.
And do you think with the people that you see, are they clients or patients? They're
Patients,
Patients. Okay. So for your patients, if you had the ability to do an InBody at the beginning of their program and at the end,
Oh, that'd be so fun.
wouldn't that be
yeah,
fun?
skeletal.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're not feeling super motivated, or you're like, no, I'm adding weight to you, and they're like, why? And you're like, because I want this number. I want your muscle mass number to go up.
Yeah, I think they would be very incentivized by it too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's great to be able to track it. It really is. Like that is, if you don't track it, you can't change it or whatever the goofy saying. I'm terrible with documentation.
Yeah,
so
and I find a
try
lot
not
of
to
men
remember.
in particular, because I do see see both, but somehow I end up seeing a lot of men, and I think they're very like numbers oriented. Like
Absolutely.
they all have their garments and they all have their, I guess we all know this, but yeah. So I feel like they would love it,
Yeah, I think it's a great tool, and I think it really helps to not just focus on one number. So like, what's the most important number? It's going to be twofold. What's the most important number to me as the person who's helping you? Whatever your worst number is. So if you have a high body fat percentage, that's most important for me to see come down. If your cholesterol is super high, that's most important to me. If if your number on the scale, if your number of pounds is just far too high for your build, that's the most important number for me. But then what's the most important number for you? I don't know. If it's losing 50 pounds so that you now can do yoga, that's the most important number to you. I mean, I think it really is different with everyone. So the indicator of health is whatever you're going to stick with.
Yeah.
Whatever motivates you to keep going.
Right there is the tough part, I think, what motivates you to keep going.
Yeah, and I think when people are clear on that, then
Yeah.
they can actually move in that direction. But I think they need to get asked like the honest question and have the honest answer to really sit with like, what is this for? Like, how do I want to feel? Like, what do I want to be available for me in 10 years? You know, like what really can life look like?
And that answer will change. And that's the thing too. That answer will change for you as you go. I mean, and I said this the other night as well. It was, if you come to me and say, I don't care about my lipid panel, I don't care about any of that, I just want to look better. That is my only goal. Great. I'm there too. I get it. I was there. I get it. I was there. Now I want to know that I'm going to be able to play with grandkids someday. Now I want to know that I'm not going to be exhausted coming up a flight of stairs, or that, my labs are going to look good and tell me that I'm preventing heart disease and all these other things. So that answer can change, and it really can. And I think we've made it like so taboo to just say, I want to look better. Like, you're not allowed to say that as your motivation. If that gets you through the door and gets you going, great. I'm here for that.
Yeah.
I think that's 98% of the people.
I think it is. And I think we also want to, I just want to feel better.
Yeah. My patients are always like, I just don't want this.
Right.
I'm like, okay, this is what we can do. And that's when I can educate them. Well, we have to like do a bunch of like lifting everything to get that to go down.
Yeah.
So it's like a good doorway to educate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and like this is such an issue for women in their 40s and 50s. And it's so frustrating. Going through it and being there, it's like, it's not calories in, it's not calories out. And I get so frustrated, and I'm going to call him out right now. My brother, who, if you can't lose weight, he's like, it's just simple math, Carrie. It's calories in, calories out. Like, you're just eating too much. You're not moving enough. And I'm like, I want to like flip him off. So I don't know if this has a rating, but my brother. And he already knows that I've done it to him. But anyway, no, but it is, it's very frustrating. And there's so many things that go into it. And I know a lot of and you guys can all speak to this because I know you've worked with clients and I'm sure have dealt with things and you guys have worked with people. But I know like one of the culprits always immediately you go to like, it's your thyroid, and sometimes it is, and then sometimes it isn't. So that can always be something that, hurts women. I feel like it affects women more than men, weirdly, and I don't know why. So we have that. And then you have just, I don't know, metabolic disorders. I don't know what it would be, or I guess hormonal changes, where I have friend after friend who they eat decent. I mean, they're not, they're just normal. It's not like they're any crazy spectrum anywhere, but they are just normal. They eat pretty healthy most of the time. They have their times where they don't. And they work out. Like they are hardcore 4 to 5 days a week, HIIT, hour workouts, running, lifting, like pounding it so hard. And like no change. And when I say no change, I get it's not about the weight. It's about inches and you're building muscle and all that, but it's not inches either. Like they're just not getting anywhere. And then they just are so literally depressed.
Defeated.
Because you're working so hard and you're trying to do all the right things and you're not seeing any change. And that's an awful place to be. So what advice do you have for those people?
Well, just go see Dr. Weston. Let's start with that, because I was that person. And went through some of the functional testing with Dr. Weston, and she was like, cool it. And I was like, never gonna happen until I did it. And I started doing...
Did you actually?
Yes, last year I started doing yoga. I do it less now. I was doing HIIT 5 or 6 days a week, and I'm maybe 2 or 3 now.
That's good.
Oh,
maybe 2 or 3 now.
I feel like you were more like 6 or 7 days.
Well, that might be true.
Sometimes
8,
twice
maybe.
a day. Yeah.
Maybe 8.
Yeah.
But what I'm realizing too is that a lot of it is mental health. Like it made me feel better.
Yeah.
So that's part of the reason I was doing it. I thought I was doing myself a favor physically, and I was not.
Well, you were.
I have a question. Was your cortisol crazy high?
It probably was at one point, but then when we tested it, I just didn't have any because you run the engine super hard and then it just is out of gas.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we worked on, and it made a huge difference. But I had to stop putting the gas pedal down so hard the whole time, and it did make a big difference. And I think that to your friend's point too, they're like, this has always worked before. Yeah. This is what I need to do. This makes me feel better in the short term. Mm-hmm. So it really is looking a little bit deeper and going, okay, what is my body actually giving me? What out of that? Mm-hmm. If the number on the scale is not moving, what's going on and why not? And you have to deep dive a little deeper.
Yeah. I hear this often, that women are doing all the things. And this is the perfect example of why it's not calorie in, calorie out. So I forget your brother's name.
Chip.
Listen up.
Chip.
So, because if it were calorie in, calorie out, you could easily just say, I ran 8 miles, I can eat 800 extra calories and everything's fine, or whatever it would be. And it's not true. So exercise is J-curve. So you'll lose calories until you won't burn any more calories. There is a point of diminishing return as far as calorie burn with exercise.
What is there
That's the way it
a
is.
Set standard, like after 30 minutes?
And I get that all the time. That's the next question I get whenever I talk, because I am a runner. So all my running friends are like, what is that point?
I've heard so many things. It's like, if you work out for 30 minutes, that's amazing. But if you work out anything after 30 minutes, you're burning your actual fat. Like actual just burning fat after 30 minutes.
No,
I've heard so many things.
Like on the treadmills, if they could take off fat burning zone and that's not really true.
No.
It's always both. You're never just burning one or the other.
Yeah.
But so that's a perfect example that exercise is not it needs to be well known that exercise is not the key to weight loss. Mm-hmm. Exercise is the key to keeping weight off. And that one, we do have a number. So that one, it's 200 minutes of exercise a week.
And it helps with your mental health.
And helps with your mental health. 150 minutes a week has been shown to be the same as an SSRI for depression or anxiety. Mm-hmm.
200 minutes a week. I've never heard that.
Yep.
Me either.
And I've been like, I love this stuff. So I'm always reading and listening to stuff. I've never heard 200 minutes a week in my life.
Now you'll hear it all the time.
I know.
Because your phone heard it.
Equates
200 minutes.
Say it again.
200 minutes a week for weight maintenance.
And then 150 a week
Correct.
is the same as taking it. Your brain responds the same as if you were taking an SSRI.
Correct.
Wow. Okay.
Yep.
Which for normal people is a
Like
Anti-anxiety, like an antidepressant,
Yeah.
anti-anxiety. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, but you're working out and you're building muscle and you're increasing your metabolic rate, you're increasing your metabolism. That's why you're able to keep it off. But if you're eating exactly the same,
Yeah.
and you got to remember too, if you go for a run, the first thing your body's using is what you have just given it.
Yeah.
You're not getting into breaking down, your fat and all this other stuff. You're breaking down the Fruit Loops you had for breakfast. So, part of it is most of it, what it is, what you're putting in is what your body is going to get through first.
Yeah.
The whole abs are made in the kitchen. Like it's true.
Yeah. I always have been told that 75% of it is what you eat and 25% is what you're like exercise. So
Can you talk to us about, so with building muscle, so my expertise is a lot more in like helping people move safely and also build muscle. And now I feel like it's really being talked about, especially for women, how women's bodies build muscle, how we can study women's bodies. Like there's this Dr. Stacy Sims, and she's wonderful, exercise physiologist. And she has this TED Talk that is named Women Are Not Small Men, which is amazing, right?
Yeah,
because
amazing.
Forever we were studied as if we were small men, which is ridiculous. And I'm so glad people are talking about it. But I've been reading her book and listening to her podcast, and she talks a lot about estrogen and how estrogen changes as we get to perimenopause. Can you talk about that? Because I feel like that has a big
It
part
does.
in
So
this.
this that everyone calls cortisol tire, it can also be from estrogen. So when we lose our estrogen, we metabolize our fatty acids differently. And so when we start metabolizing those differently, we deposit fat in our belly. And so estrogen, the loss of estrogen will play a role as far as like perimenopause and menopause. Throughout our cycle, our estrogen changes. So she talks a lot about like how we could eat differently during different parts of our cycle, how we can exercise differently in certain parts of our cycle, although I think she would just say exercise.
Yeah.
But just things you need to be aware of, but just eating differently. Specifically, she'll talk a lot about like eating more carbohydrates around that when you want them, like the week or two before your cycle, when you have urges for carbs to eat them. Complex carbs. We're not talking like, potato chips, but the, weedy, seedy, fibery kind of carbs.
speaking of cycles, I've heard like there's better times to so fasting I feel like is big right now. So we might as well just talk about it. I was going to ask about like longer term fast, like 24 hours plus, versus intermittent fasting. And then like pros and cons to those. Do you guys prefer one or the other? And then I've also read there's better times for women to fast during their cycle. Like I've heard, fasting's terrible for women, but then I've heard, well, actually it's not if you're doing it the right time of your cycle. So what are like all your thoughts on that? Any?
I think it's really dependent on the person, very much so, and kind of what their goals, and then also, again, why we look at labs and do that. If we're looking for, better glucose control throughout the day, they might be a person that is a candidate for intermittent fasting. But for somebody who has no like frame of reference, it's just like, I'm going to fast till 4 o'clock today. Like that's not
And then
doing
go
you any
buck
favors.
wild.
Yeah, that is not doing you any favors. For the people who have been successful with that, it's because you're shortening your window of time to eat, so you're just eating less.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you could really just do that all day long too. But if you have a metabolic reason, you really can't know that unless you're kind of being looked at a little bit deeper with labs.
I would say you don't want to fast right prior to ovulation. So, because it can affect ovulation. So, especially if you're trying to get pregnant, you're not going to want to fast right before that. So, that's like midway-ish around your cycle. So, usually ovulate like day 12, 13, 14. So, you'll want to not fast, maybe day 8 till after you ovulate. And then, again, that second half of the cycle. So, if you're going to fast anytime, it would be beginning of the cycle or right after ovulation. If you're going to follow those, what's taught. Men do better with fasting than women.
I know.
That's just the way it is. And men do faster or do better with calorie restriction compared to women because of what we need for our hormonal health. So women need 30 calories per kilogram of fat-free mass, which we can figure out. Adrienne can figure it out for you when you see her. But so we can figure that out with the in-body. If you eat less than that for 5 days or more per month, you'll have a change in your hormones that can make you want to hold on to your weight more so. For men, it's 15. So like they can like stop putting creamer in their coffee and go down 3 pant sizes.
Yeah. Honestly, it's so true. It's so frustrating.
So that's the reason though. Sorry. So there's a physiologic reason for it. And so we have a smaller window of calories we need to eat to lose weight. And so it's going to take us longer. So women have to be patient, and women are not patient. Women will do a diet for 1 month, and if they haven't lost anything, they're off of it.
Yeah,
and
I don't blame them. I mean, a month is a long commitment. I mean, that's a long time to not lose anything.
I know, but here's the thing. You can do the same thing from age 20 until age 45, and you're still eating and exercising the exact same way at 45. And I have people come in my office and they're crying in my office because they've been doing everything the same, but now they're gaining weight. And I get that. I am 45. I understand that. But our bodies are changing. So you have to change.
Yeah. So you're saying when your body changes, you need to give it more than 30 days to figure out like the new you and what you need to do to like see results.
You need to eat more protein. You need to lift heavier weights. You need to eat more fiber. What do women do? First thing women do, you need to lose 10 pounds. What food are you going to cut out?
Carbs, no carbs.
And then what happens? You lose all your fiber.
Yeah.
So,
and it's so bad for, I don't know about men because I know they're different, but I know like being really calorie restrictive is terrible for women. Like you usually will gain weight. Essentially, right?
Well, yeah, you're holding on to. I mean,
you're gonna hold on to everything
simple
you have.
Biology. Your body's like, you're starving me, so I'm gonna hold on to whatever I can. Yeah, and that's an easy energy store for your body.
Well, and what stinks as women, because I do it all the time. My kids yell at me all the time because I really, and I'm not saying this, but I don't eat enough because I'm always running around and I'm never like sitting down and focusing on getting nutrition or eating. I'm a convenience eater. I'm grabbing something really quick. And I don't eat enough, and I know that, and I definitely don't get enough protein. So protein is the big like goal for this. That's my resolution is getting more protein this year. But it's I think it happens a lot with women that they really don't eat a lot because my friends say it too because we're going.
I eat
we're
really
running
fast.
kids.
I eat way too fast.
Yeah.
And I think it stemmed from like playing sports as kids where it was like, gotta get to practice.
Yep. And you learn the habit, right? I eat very fast, and it's from I've been a nurse for a long time.
Yeah,
like you eat when
you're
you
on the
can,
go.
so like you just do it.
So that's part of it.
And I also was the clean plate club generation.
Yes.
You know, like you be thankful for what you have, and you finish your plate.
There are people starving in countries.
You finish what you have.
The kids in India.
You know, and I mean, well, God bless my grandparents, but it was like. That was another thing too. Like, it's like food was our connection. It was love. Like that's how you showed that you love somebody.
My grandmother baked till her
absolutely
hands fell off.
And I wanted to also make her feel good by eating what she made. But like at the end of the day, you know, we're learning these habits that just we cannot carry forever. Yeah. You know, we are also thank God, and now some of it's coming back, not sporting the same hairstyles that we did 20 years ago. So why are we still eating like we did 20 years ago?
Although the mullet's back. So,
you know, listen, I'm not mad at it.
Yeah, mullet's back. And my grandmother, funny story, when you said that, she would bake and bake and bake and bake, and she would get offended.
Yeah.
If you didn't eat it. And we would see her pull up, and she would have made like a whole like pie. And we'd be like, oh my gosh, she's here. And we would put it down the garbage disposal before she walked in because she would light us up if there was a piece left. We couldn't keep up with it. She's 4'9", and we feared her like terribly. And we would be like, "Hurry up!" And we like put it on the garbage disposal. But hey, you know, we didn't eat the calories, but we would be like 800 pounds a piece if we ate everything she brought to our house. So it's so funny when you said that because I totally had that grandma.
And we're the generation that calorie in, calorie out, like
yes.
and empty calories.
Yes.
And so I mean, my mom, I've told patients this often, like. She just wanted you to eat any kind of breakfast. So she would literally send us out the door with Little Debbie's.
Yeah.
We did not have a lot of money growing up. So like the 99-cent box of, like, and if it was an Apple Delight, it was pretty healthy. I mean, it's better than the Ho-Ho that was probably next to it. So that's what we were sent out the door with because we could eat, you know, breakfast. But it's not, there's no such thing as an empty calorie. Every calorie will send your body a message, you know, good or bad. So, and I think sometimes when women don't eat enough, like, when we're on the run and going, what we choose probably isn't the best.
Yeah.
Food.
Right.
Well, protein's huge, obviously. Like, do you guys have recommendations on like how women can well, one, like how many grams of protein everyone should have, essentially. And then any tidbits on how, because I know you guys are good about it. I don't know you
I'm really
yet.
good about it, actually.
You look like you're good about it. I don't know you as well as I know them. But I know they're good about it. And so like any like tips or tricks or tidbits, like get protein in your day to help you reach the number that you need to get. Because for me, it seems daunting because I'm just like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. I got to figure out when I'm going to eat all that. And it can be kind of hard. So
Natural foods are going to be best, right? So, I mean, if you need to replace proteins with protein powders and protein bars and whatnot, that's not terrible, but natural is going to be best. We all spend how many hours a day? It'll tell you on your phone how long you spend every day. How much of that time are you spending looking up protein sources?
yeah.
Probably none. Probably none. We have all of this at our disposal right now. You can see a list of a million things, but what are you going to eat? So go through there and pick out this week, this is what I'm going to try. This is what I'm going to incorporate. This is what I'm going to do.
This is where it gets fun. You get to try new things.
This is where it
Love that attitude. That's the energy I need. So
it can be very, very daunting.
But also there's so much information. So how to like zone in on.
Absolutely. So you're going to go through here and say, these are my favorite things. Like these are my favorite things. This is what I'm going to eat. And then branch out from there. Add one new thing.
Yeah.
But the onus is on us also to spend our time a little more wisely and go, all right, you know what? I'm going to try a chickpea this week. You know, like
Literally just roasted 2 cans of them today.
Did you?
Probably ate an entire can.
what did you just say to me the other day? You just said, I would rather somebody spend an hour a week meal prepping. What did you say to me the other day?
I'd rather people spend an hour a week meal prepping than an hour in the gym.
Probably, yeah. That was what you said. And I'm like, that's where I'm wrong because
you
I
have to meal prep.
the working out part I enjoy and it's the meal prepping. If I could meal prep, that would be the answer to
I don't
all
care if you
my
have to pay
issues.
for meal plant or meal company to come.
Yeah.
out
Yeah,
with
that's the
food.
thing. Maybe if you
Like,
you have to
I know,
pay
maybe
for
I
that.
need to invest in that.
Because maybe your time like mentally
I don't want
isn't
to cook
best
'cause it's
well.
just
Yeah, I was gonna
me.
say it
It's
doesn't
just
seem
like
like
me.
you want
And
to
you're not
cook.
gonna
so
cook for
many
myself.
resources out there right now that you can do that. And I guarantee, and the first thing people will say is it's too expensive.
Yeah.
I guarantee you, if you are actually looking at what you are spending and
grocery
eating
store.
and door dashing
Convenience,
and paying for convenience
Starbucks.
already, you're
Yeah.
already spending that money.
Agree.
So if you can have it in front of you and you know exactly what you're getting and it's already done,
I know.
absolutely.
So to circle back, Dr. Weston, or I guess anyone can answer, that was the answer. But protein, how do you figure out how many grams of protein you should be having every day?
She went over this on Monday, and I forget. So.
Oh, I was going to say, wow, I'm excited. I was like, what do you recommend
there's
for
a
your
formula.
patients? There is a formula. And it is based on body weight for people. For most women, we are woefully under. For weight loss, I'm going to for what I tell people, I'm going to ballpark and say I start you with about 80 to 100 grams a day.
I think that's normally what it ends up to be.
Yeah.
So if you want to get like real technical, you take your weight, you divide by 2.2, that's how many kilograms you are. And then if you want to like be not diseased, so the smallest amount that they recommend, like the RDA recommendation on protein is 0.8, so 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram body weight. So if you want to build muscle, you're going to be like high end, like 2.2 to 2.5. So that's where you get the people saying 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's the muscle building. So that's So 2.2 to 2.5, that's 1 gram per pound of body weight. That's a lot for women.
That's a lot.
So unless you're like, if you're trying to build muscle and you're like in competitions or you're actively trying to build muscle, you can do that. If I have someone who's not lifting weights, there is no reason to be eating that much protein.
Okay.
Like all these podcasts and social media stuff coming out and all these women come in, they're like, I know I'm supposed to be eating this many grams, so I eat 1 pound. Like, that's a lot of protein. And if you're not doing any movement or lifting, like, you're not
What are
going
you
to be
doing with it? Yeah.
If you have the extra, I mean, honestly, some of it is calories. If you're eating too many calories, you're going to gain weight.
Yeah.
So, like, that's not ideal. So you do have to look, are you under muscled or over muscled? So if you're of normal weight but under muscled and you want to increase, you're going to want to be on the higher end of protein. If you're adequately muscled, then what you're eating is probably adequate and you can stay with more of like a 1.2.
Okay.
grams.
What
of protein
is
per kilogram
adequately
body.
muscled? What percent of your body weight should be muscle?
Yeah, so I would say looking at your body fat percentage. So if your body fat,
There's an inverse relationship between your body fat percentage and your muscle mass.
Correct.
So generally, if your body fat percentage goes up, we usually see that your muscle mass goes down with weight loss, or vice versa. Usually what we see is vice versa. You get skinny fat. So you've lost, muscle mass. So you've lost weight on the scale, but you've also increased your body fat percentage. So you're thin and gooey. It's thin and gooey. So for somebody losing weight or trying to lose weight, the inclusion of protein is everything. It's so important. It means, especially if we're putting you on a medication, that you really need to reevaluate, your plate. And we heard this, Colleen spoke about it the other night. You need to reevaluate your plate. So it's not that you're not already doing it, you're just not doing enough. And I would really encourage anybody to track it for just a few days. See what you're actually getting. You're going to be so surprised.
I like to tell people to do the day that you feel like I ate horribly today. So that day that you feel like you did not meet the mark, you want to track your grams of fiber and track your grams of protein, just to know. And then a day you're like, oh my gosh, I killed it. I did amazing today. I hope everyone was watching. You want to track your grams of protein and fiber so that you know the difference in what feels good and what feels bad and what those numbers are, because you can't fix what you don't know. And so you have to know where you're starting from.
So typically, with weight loss, you're saying around 80 to 100-ish?
That's, yes. Okay. And that is generally about double of what most women are probably getting in a day.
Yeah, 1,000,000%.
And part of the reason for that is not just maintenance of muscle mass while you're losing weight. It helps you feel full longer.
Yeah, for sure.
It does also equate to less calorie intake because you're full longer. You're not as hungry.
Agree. What about, I want to circle back because I mentioned something about the thyroid myth, because anytime you hear about, I'm really struggling to lose weight, have your thyroid checked. It's probably a thyroid issue. What are your thoughts on all that? And where are you guys, when is it typically thyroid? When is it not? Is it more something else? What do you guys see?
Thyroid affects every system of your body, there's no doubt. Thyroid hormone is super important. And then if your thyroid hormone's off, it can affect other hormones. If your cortisol's off, it can affect your thyroid, and vice versa. So it's an important hormone, no doubt. But it is probably not the end-all be-all of your weight. So if you look at actual studies, having low thyroid can make it harder to lose weight, but it doesn't necessarily make you gain weight.
Interesting.
And so I'm not saying it doesn't play a role. It does.
Yeah.
But it is not only your thyroid. I am never going to just say, you know what, Adrienne, you're doing everything stellar.
Yep.
You're moving just the way you should. You're eating like a pro. It's all your thyroid. You're 50 pounds overweight because of your thyroid. That's not going to be the case.
No.
I mean, unless you've had, we're talking overt hypothyroidism for years.
Yeah.
It's just not going to be the case. So it's you have to do everything. You have to look at every different aspect. And so
it can play a role in how you
plays a role.
feel.
Oh, for sure.
Related to weight. I'll say that. Yeah. So if you feel tired and you feel run down, you're not going to feel like moving and exercising. So it can play a role in that sense, and it can play a role in weight, but not as much as, we've all been to the doctor where we're like, please
let it be something.
Please let my thyroid be low. Let that be the answer, right? Let that be the answer.
And we treat it. There is, I do agree there is an optimal thyroid and a suboptimal. So our range of thyroid is very broad for what we allow. And I know that people feel better in narrower ranges. So we do treat thyroid. Don't get me wrong. Yeah. We will treat it. And if it changes nothing, if the patient feels exactly the same, I'm going to take you off of it. I'm not just going to treat your number. Yeah. And I have no problem trying people on thyroid, 100%. But I also want to manage your expectations. Because I don't want you to think I'm going to put you on this thyroid and weight's going to melt off. And the same thing with estrogen.
Yeah.
When I do hormone replacement, I tell people, hey, this just makes it easier to lose weight. So this will hopefully make what you do every day as far as diet and movement, it will help you lose weight. It doesn't melt off.
Yeah.
And it ain't fast. Let me tell you that. Hormonal weight loss is slow. But you do need to have balanced hormones.
Yeah.
And that includes estrogen, it includes cortisol, it includes thyroid, it includes testosterone. I mean, when we lose testosterone, we lose our muscle mass.
Yeah.
And then we get gooier. And our hormones are secreted from muscles. We have hormones secreted from fat. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist. The hormones that come from fat are going to be inflammatory. They're going to make you gain more fat. The hormones from muscle help us with metabolism. And so when we turn 35 and suddenly your muscle mass starts going down, that changes your metabolism. Yeah. So that's why we change, and that's why we have to change how we eat. And believe me, I'm as pissed off as any other woman talking about it. I don't like it. I want to eat the way I did when I was 20 and be that size, but it just isn't the case. So unfortunately, we have to change what we do. So for muscle building, it's going to be protein and it's going to be lifting weights.
Yeah.
And I think, Dr. Katie talked about it earlier. Years ago, people were scared to gain muscle mass.
Yeah.
I don't want to bulk up.
Yeah.
I don't want to lift weights.
Yeah.
You're not going to bulk up. We don't have the testosterone of a man.
Yeah.
No.
Like, you're not going to bulk up. It's just our muscles our muscle fiber components, they're different.
Yeah.
Our hormones are different. You're not going to bulk up.
You're going to get lean, and it's going to allow you to lift the groceries, lift your 30-pound grandchild, do these things that you just take for granted. Like, oh, I can do this. Like, how many times postpartum women are just like struggling because all of a sudden they have to hold this big weight in front of them. Well, first they have this, now they have this, their neck, everything. And it's like, okay, if we like lifted and got you strong and had some good posture, like you'd be able to support all this. I mean, so I think it's pretty obvious, but it's not something that we think about. Yeah. And I think it's so important. And there's a lot more studies now coming out, like lift heavy weights. It's like always like the women had like the pink and the purple, like little weights, and that's the women weights. It's like, no, like you can lift more than that. You are lifting more than that. You don't even realize
What is it? Like our legs can lift 80%. If we work them out, can work 80% is what the men can lift.
Yeah.
And this is where like I really encourage women to use an athletic trainer who knows what they're doing with women, or a physical therapist who knows how to lift weights.
Yeah.
Because when I talk to women about weightlifting, like we want them to do like maybe 3 to 4 times a week lifting. And once a week I tell women you have to lift heavy. Yeah. So once a week at least rotate the body group. So like upper extremity once a week, lower extremity once a week, doesn't have to be the same day. Where you would normally do like, 3 sets of say 10 to 15 reps, I want you to do 4 to 6 of 4 to 6, right?
Yeah.
Like
heavy
weights.
Yeah.
But also not hurting yourself.
Yeah.
That's where
that's where I
who's
come in.
knowledgeable.
Yeah.
That's where you come in.
Yes.
Yeah, because if
When
you
we
think
hurt
about
ourselves,
it,
we call you.
well, actually,
Before you hurt yourself.
so like now it's changing where their physical therapists have always been thought like, oh, my doctor referred me because I like tore my rotator cuff or I have low back pain, but anyone can come to us. And so you can use it as like a preventative measure. So like prehab type thing. Yeah. And I think that's where PT is headed, and that's where it should be, because we are movement experts. We know the exact angles that your ankles, your knees, and your hips should move for your body, so that when you go into a deep squat, you're not putting excess stress on your back. Like when we look at the body, it's like, how does the whole chain move? Where are things getting caught up? Okay, now this ankle has to compensate for the fact that this hip isn't doing this. It's incredible. And I think the average person thinking, especially women, but anybody walking into the gym is super intimidating. Yeah. Like for me even, really intimidating. I had a weightlifting partner. She was more skilled in strength training because she had that background, and it's like learning a new sport. It's like if I was like, okay, Adrienne, we're gonna cook or we're gonna bake like a special cake today. You'd be like, okay. And I'd be like, okay, do you like chocolate? Do you not? Like, what do you like to do? What do you want to cook? What are the ingredients? Like, what kind of pots and pans and equipment, measuring tools do we need? So it's like, I think people like me can kind of steer people towards, what do you like to do? Because that's going to keep you going. Yeah. And then like, let's look at like what has happened in your past. Like, okay, I broke an arm, like falling 3 years ago. Okay. And then like, what's your posture? How do you sit during the day? Like, what are you lifting? Oh, I'm lifting my grandkid, or I'm lifting my child. Okay. So looking at the whole picture, let's watch how your body moves. Okay. This is a good stretch for you. This is how you squat. It's like teaching somebody how to perform a new sport. really, literally, and to do it safely. And then from there, then they start moving and feeling empowered. And then it's like, okay, now we're going to add 10 pounds to that. Okay, now we're going to add 20. And then all of a sudden, like even for me, I was deadlifting 90 pounds a year ago. And if you told me I was going to do that, I'd be like, no way. Like I'm going to hurt my back. There's a lot of fear, back pain, blah, blah, blah. But then you do it, you breathe properly, engage through your core, learning all that. And then it's like, oh, wow. And you feel so strong.
And I think sometimes, and myself included, we do classes, right? Women like classes because it gets us there, holds us accountable, and you can't lift heavy in a class. And no one's watching your mechanics in a class.
Yeah, it's
fast.
fast.
It's really hard. So I have a lot of women who do, you know, the class. I know, it's fast. And you're like, no. I mean, I told the gym I go to, I'm like, we need a perimenopausal class where we all get heavier weights, a lot of instruction. We're going slow. And we're going to get fitter because of it, and we're going to get stronger.
Yeah.
And so.
And it doesn't have to be an hour all the time. Yeah.
Do you want to teach it?
Well, I think
do
it's so important too that like we keep saying like exercise, and that word for some people, they're just like, no thanks, not for me.
Yeah.
It's movement.
You said that the other night. You're like, I hate that word.
I hate that word because I mean it's what we do, it's what we've the word we've given to it, but we're moving our bodies. Whatever we're
movement.
doing, and I love that. Even instead of calling it functional movement, it's living movement. It's the movements that you're doing in life. The reason that you're doing the deadlift is because you need to strengthen
to pick up something from the
posterior
floor.
chain.
Literally, you got an Amazon box.
Yeah.
You're going to bend over and you're going to pick that up. If you're deadlifting, that would be no problem. But if you're not deadlifting, potentially that could be a back strain. Like
I want to do hip thrust because I want to get up off a chair.
Yeah.
I want to do overhead press because I want to put my suitcase in the upper compartment.
I want to lunge because I want to kneel to the ground and get back up.
Yeah.
I think about those things while I'm working out and not enjoying it. I do. I think about, if I'm doing this deadlift or I'm doing this overhead press or whatnot, I do think about those things. Like, this is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
That is definitely changed from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But it's also preventing injury down the road. And I love the idea of calling it functional movement. But in reality, it is living movement. It's what we are doing to live well and live better and live pain-free and live longer. And the idea of exercise for people who are like, if you see me running, you better run too. Something's chasing me. You're doing what you can with what you have while you can. And I think that's a little point of difference for our group as we're meeting with people who want to lose weight and want to feel better, is that we're not like, you're going to do this many times a week, you're going to eat this. It's like, you've got a gallon of milk at home. Great. This is what we're doing today with that weight. This is how we're starting, and you can utilize what you're already working with to live well and move well.
And it's not all about like being able just to move. It's about bone health. It's about cognition. Decrease risk of dementia with lifting weights. If you've seen anyone with an injury, it only takes 2 weeks to start losing that muscle mass. So you need some reserve.
Move it or lose it.
Yeah, for sure.
So like just for like people like me who aren't as wise, but what would be ideal for, say, perimenopausal, menopausal women for a workout regimen? You said lift heavy, really heavy one day a week, like lift another 2 to 3 days a week. And then are you doing cardio also, or on days you're not lifting? Like, what does that look like? Because I know we can overdo cardio too. And and I know like for me specifically, I had no cortisol, and you basically are like, stop working out, just lift and walk. And for cardio, all I want you to do is walk and lift heavy. And I was like, okay. And it really worked, and it did did wonders. But like, what does that look like ideally for like anyone in their, upper age bracket?
I think for me, I think lifting at least 3 days a week.
Yeah.
And then, because I think about the week as a whole. I mean, I definitely think let's think about stress, actually. So we're stressing the muscles, let's say 3 days a week. Then we're in our cardio, 1 to 2 days a week, whether that's walking, a light jog, a bike ride. And then that recovery day is huge too, either 1 day or 2 days, which is like yoga, just like setting a timer for 20 minutes and doing some active stretching, I don't know if Pilates, where that would fit in. I don't know if Pilates would be a lifting day or a...
Yeah, I think it depends how crazy.
Yeah. Or Legree Pilates is pretty intense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm really big on balance with food, with exercise. It's like, oh, what does my body need? Like, give it variety, give it a balance. Like, even plyometrics are important. So like if you're in a class or you just want to get up and do some jumping jacks, I mean, we need to get that like quick twitch muscle fibers to work. Yeah, vary it up. But I think mainly lifting, add the cardio, and then have a recovery day with some like gentle flexibility and maybe some mindfulness. And I will make a plug for yoga because I feel like yoga helps people connect to their body, especially in my world. Like, so when you're going to these exercise classes or you're lifting and you're watching TV or you're watching the instructor and you're just like distracted doing your exercise and you're like, oh, that felt amazing. I'm going to go home. I'm going to cook dinner. You're in this hamster wheel. Even though yoga is boring, it's a place where all of a sudden you're closing your eyes, you're breathing, and the teacher is saying, feel this, feel that, feel that. And all of a sudden you're like literally creating a relationship with your body so that when you are going to do your lifting, you're like, oh, this doesn't feel good, or oh, this feels great, or oh, this is why I'm doing it, because you're feeling what your body's going through. And I think that's really powerful, especially as we age, to actually like be cognizant of like how this is feeling, what's safe, what's not safe. Like even we call it kinesthetics, like knowing where your body is in space. Like some people, you're like, touch your nose, and they're like, huh? But like, it's like your body knowing where it is in space for balance, for everything is so important.
I love that. Do you guys have any, we get this question all the time, but are there any supplements or anything that you guys find really helps boost metabolism or give people energy or help with weight loss that are actually work, that aren't gimmicky or frauds?
Well, I think Dr. Weston would agree with me. I think all women need to be taking at least a small dose of creatine, especially as they get older, because it is going to help preserve the muscle mass that you have. I believe what I recommend to people is 5 milligrams a day. Research supports that. It's not going to bulk you up. All the stuff that we've heard. We listened to too many infomercials as we were growing up. But we need to do that for muscle preservation, which in turn leads to bone health and injury prevention.
And there's cognition.
And cognition,
research on creatine.
On creatine, helps with their focus. Yeah.
So that would be my, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you have anything that stands out that you like?
So for weight loss, I mean, the GLP-1 like natural increasers are berberine 500 3 times a day, and then Akkermansia is a certain probiotic. Green tea actually has quite a bit of research on it. So you just drinking green tea can have a pretty
So not
significant
just
effect.
drinking it, not the supplement, like
Correct.
because sometimes there's little capsules that have green tea in it.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with some of the capsules. And I think they can affect your liver as well. But the green tea, just like drinking green tea,
For
can be
metabolism.
helpful.
Cool.
Yep.
Okay.
So those are the big ones. I mean, there are like Garcinia has stuff on it that research is here and there.
What was the second thing you said after the
Akkermansia.
Yeah, Akkermansia.
Akkermansia is a probiotic.
Oh.
So there's really only one company that I would get it from. It's called Pendulum. If they want to sponsor tonight's event, they can. Because it has to be made under anaerobic conditions, so it's really hard to make. So it's not super cheap, but it also can help. They have significant studies with A1C reduction.
Nice.
Using it. So
I love that.
Yep. I want to say one more thing about exercise really quick. So in talking about variety and things, one thing that we don't do as we age are things like sprinting. So I know we do like HIIT workouts, and a lot of times our HIIT workouts are in that zone 4, where it's not hard enough. It's too long to be a true HIIT workout. Like you can't do a HIIT for 30 minutes, not a true HIIT.
Yeah.
So like you really only need a HIIT workout. We're talking like 7 to 15 minutes a week of HIIT. You don't need a ton. You can really only do HIIT for, when you're starting out, probably we're talking 30 seconds, 1 minute, 4 minutes at the max if you're like a hardcore person, that you can keep your heart rate up that high to be considered HIIT. But we lose those fast twitch muscle fibers as we age. And so the way to get them is to do sprinting work.
Interesting.
Yeah, but doing very short bursts. Doesn't
Like
even have to
30 seconds or?
Yeah, like 30, start with 30 seconds, and then your rest should be equivalent. So if you're doing 30 second rest. Tabata's probably too short. It's usually like 15 seconds, maybe 30 seconds. But, and they're working up like 1 minute and then 1 minute rest. And that's like, you really don't need a lot.
Is it better to do cardio at the end or beginning of like a, like weightlifting workout? I've heard both. I've heard do it before and I've heard do it after.
Whenever you can lift heavier,
Yeah.
that's when you want to do it. So if you need a light warm up to be able to lift heavier, then do that. But if you can lift heavier, like if you can't lift heavy because you do too much of a cardio workout, then you wouldn't want to. So whenever you can lift heaviest, because you want to straighten the muscle and lift heavy. So like lifting real heavy should probably be closer to the end of the day because you can lift heavier at the end of the day usually, rather than like first thing in the morning because your flexibility is much less. Your mobility is just less in the morning. And usually cardio's. But if you had to like gun to the head, better to do cardio in the morning and lifting in the evening.
Yeah, I would like to do it. I would prefer doing it in between, like when I'm lifting, I would add in cardio, kind of like just to get that interval kind of chain.
So you like lift, do a little cardio lift.
Yeah, like maybe do a
lift.
circuit, and then get a cardio, get like jog on the treadmill, circuit. Yeah, I think that just and it gets your body, like your muscles, doing different things at different times.
Endurance. Yeah.
Yeah, but it also comes down to what you're training for.
And also like whenever you
To look good.
do it.
Oh yeah, of course, yes.
Whenever you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, figure
I don't
out what
want
works for
Anything's
you.
better than nothing.
Well,
right?
everybody's
Anything's better than
saying an
nothing.
hour and all this, and you don't have to carve an hour out of your
No.
day. If you're like, I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk in the morning and another 10-minute walk in the evening, you've just added 20 minutes of activity to your day.
Yeah.
And it's also better to spread it out.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it's actually better to do 3 10-minute walks than a 30-minute walk.
Interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
I did not know
100%.
that.
Better for metabolic health, without a doubt. It's funny, I was just talking to a patient today. I had a discovery call. And she's like, why is it that I won't just go lift for 15 minutes? Because we're women. Like if it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
If I can't do all of it, I'm going to do none of it. And that's why like 10 a.m. you have that donut and you're like, well, my whole day's shot. Forget it. I'm just going to eat whatever I want the rest
We
of
make
the
it
day.
such a thing. It's like I have to get ready to go to the gym. I have to get my gym clothes on. And I have to like do all of this. We make it such a thing where you really can, to the walking pad point. So we have a walking pad in our office. I walk until I kind of get kind of sweaty. And then I'm like, okay, 15 minutes. That's good.
Yeah.
But at the end of the week, I've added hours of walking that I would not have done otherwise.
Yeah.
Because I'm giving myself a chance to do small intervals.
Yeah.
Yep.
And one more thing I want to say that when she brought up sprinting, it reminded me, a lot of times I tell patients maybe struggling with like neck, back pain, I tell them about how we move in 3 different dimensions. We move this way, we move side to side, and we actually move rotationally. So we need to train the body that way. And when we grew up as kids playing on playgrounds and playing sports, like our body, we moved all different directions. And then we get older and we're sitting in cars, we're sitting in desks, we're just like very straight plane. If we ride bikes, like we just do that, you know? So the body needs to be loaded in different directions to be able to handle the stress of like picking up something and twisting. That's when a lot of disc herniations happen. So that's where exercise variety and also moving your body in all those different directions, like stretching overhead, going into back bends, all these things are so important because your body's like needs that.
Just thinking about doing a back bend is scary.
I know, isn't it crazy? But then when you were a kid, it was like, okay, I'm going to touch
I
the
know,
floor.
I used to do it all the time,
You know?
but I'm like, I can't even fathom what that would look like.
Well, and most importantly, with all of this, to that point, it's all about balance. It's about what's fun. It's about what fits into your life. It's not about like, okay, now I listen to this podcast and I have to eat this and I have to work out this much. And like,
We're all guilty of that.
it's all about balance.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself. Do yourself a favor in those moments where you can, to give yourself what you need to be able to enjoy yourself for longer.
Yeah.
It is all about balance. There's no hard, fast rule where like, well, you get an F for this week because you had a donut.
Yeah.
You know, I hope
Just
you
being
enjoy it.
open to trying new things and adding little bits. Like, you know, we talked about a lot of things here, but maybe just like a little bit in January, add in something. In February, add in something. And then just mindfulness. Like, did that feel good? No, that was crappy. Okay, I'm going to go another direction, you know? Just kind of like
better to go
taking
from
care of yourself.
doing something. The biggest gain is from going nothing to anything.
Yeah.
Going from, your VO2 max going from like good to elite this much on the longevity scale. Going from doing nothing to something, like that much.
Yeah.
So just doing anything is good.
Yeah.
Well, and I think now more than ever, and this is why I like that functional medicine is coming so much to the forefront in the last few years, is because of social media and because of just word spreading and all the information overload we get. Literally, I told you how many different things before we started. We were just, chatting about all the different things you hear. I'm like, I've heard you're not supposed to eat 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed.
Yeah.
And then I heard I'm supposed to drink this certain protein shake with casein because my body will metabolize it all night and I'll burn more calories. And then you hear so much stuff. And I think it's kind of good to have somebody on the journey with you that is functionally minded, that can run tests, that can do things and can kind of coach you through, well, because of your blood sugar, you should stop eating this, or you should do this, or this, or because your cortisol, you should do this type of exercise. And I know you can discover a lot of that, like with just normal basic labs and things like that. But it's great to have somebody that actually knows what they're talking about and has studies and research to back up why they're telling you what they're telling you, and not just get bombarded and information overload on, oh, I should do this, now I need to do this, oh my gosh, and then you just give up because you're like, I don't know what to do that's going to actually help me, because I'm getting all these contradictory information.
If you were going to do something that worked for everybody, it would have already worked.
Exactly.
So you need to figure out, and we need to figure out and look a little more in depth about what works for you.
I want to do that test, by the way.
Oh, the DNA test.
There's 2 DNA tests that can tell you what diet would be best for you and what type of exercise would be best for you. And I'm on the slate to get that done. I'm excited.
Yay.
I know. I think that's so cool to know.
I love it. I think functional medicine, more people need to know about it.
There's
definitely.
so
It's just on the
many
brink. Yeah. And I would like to say, I feel like taking a look at your values. Like if you value health, like pour into that. Not only time, but pour in money, like this is your life. Like health is the best investment. And we know that like the work that I do in functional medicine might cost more than your average healthcare, but it's so important. It makes a difference. And if you value your health, do it, because if you don't spend it now, you're going to spend it later in many different ways that are not going to be good.
1,000,000%.
That's what I was going to say. I tell people all the time, you're going to spend money on your health either way. So you're going to spend it up front with us, or you're going to spend it down the road when you have a hospital bill.
All right. Cheers to keeping our resolutions.
Yes.
Let's be the 3% that make it for the year.
Cheers, ladies.